feels like it's Christmas every day. And was I sad when I came home? Apart from being sad because I felt sick, because it's just so brutal coming home after being that wonderful Tinkerbell for 6 months. Now suddenly you're like smucked back down into the earth again and like squished into the ground by the oppressive tyranny of gravity. It looks really goofy when you come back and you see everybody stuck to the floor. It's like, why are we all in the first 6 feet here? It's a beautiful big room. And you just get so used to it. You come home and it just looks so foolish that we're all crumping around on the ground. And but no, I wasn't sad. I was delighted. I had worked since I was 9 to be an astronaut, and nobody ever did more science in their time on the space station than our crew did, because the space station's really healthy. We did an emergency spacewalk that helped keep the station up there and didn't have to abandon ship. And the people I flew with were just great people. So I was extremely happy, actually, and delighted to be back home. So no, it wasn't sad at all. Yes, sir, the red shirt. So first he said some really nice things, and thank you very much, Mitchell. And hello to everybody in Wisconsin, you said you're from, right? Yeah. I was in Oshkosh back in July. You know when you ride in the back of a bus or a big vehicle and it goes over a bump and you sort of float for a second, it feels kind of, what'd you say, loopy? It feels kind of loopy in your stomach a little bit. Does spaceflight feel like that? No, because it's permanent. What you're feeling in your stomach is the transition, you know, because it's not steady. You know, you get to that bump, so it's a big acceleration pushing you up, and then you fall for just a second, and then you're back in your seat. So you're constantly caught in the transition. But imagine if when your bus went over that bump and you got thrown up, and then you just stayed floating above your seat forever. It's like that. It's maybe like if you stepped off a cliff in the darkness, so that you couldn't see the ground, and you didn't have any sensation of the ground rush. All you could feel was that you were falling forever. So it doesn't give you that feeling in your stomach of a big sudden change. Instead, it's just like floating, flying forever. It's a great feeling. Yes? Aaron asked what was my favorite experiment on the station and what might I like to see in the future. 2 of them. One of them was a thing called microflow. It's about the size of a little microwave or a big toaster, and it's a blood sample machine, a blood cytometer, and you can put a blood sample in it, and in 10 minutes it will take your blood sample, put it through a fiber optic, use a laser to look at each individual blood cell going by, and do blood analysis that, you know, normally you have to go to the hospital to get done in a big procedure. So we can draw blood on the space station, run it through the flow cytometer, and get a blood analysis in 10 minutes. And it was invented because we needed it. But now, of course, people are looking at it and going, this is a great invention for here on Earth, for remote communities. It's being used with Ghana Medical Health down in Africa. So it's a really cool experiment. The other one I think is neat is the alpha magnetic spectrometer, which is a huge magnet mounted on the top of the space station for the next 10 or 15 years that is collecting all the particles of the universe. Because we don't know what the universe is made of. We can't account for 95% of the mass of the universe. We don't know what it is. We can only account for 5%. We think we understand what's going on. We don't have a clue. We're just starting to figure it out. And this huge experiment, which is run out of CERN in Geneva, run by Sam Ting, who was a Nobel laureate, is helping us to understand what the rest of the universe is even made of. And if we really want to figure out how to get cleaner sources of energy and whether there's any chance of ever going anywhere besides our own solar system, we have to at least understand what the Earth is made of and what all the particles are. So So anyway, those two experiments are pretty cool and interesting for me. Yes, young man. Nick asked me if I was frightened the day I went up into space. Is spaceflight frightening? Normally I'm scared when I don't know what's going to happen, and I think there's danger with what's happening, right? Like if I walked out here and I didn't have a speech ready, or if I asked, I don't know, you to come up and give a talk. And please come up here and talk about the difference between deciduous and coniferous trees. Start right now. You know, you might be a little nervous. But instead, if I said, I want you to come up here and give a talk, and I want you to talk about the difference between deciduous and coniferous trees 4 weeks from next Tuesday, and you got nothing to do between now and then, get ready, and we're going to simulate it 300 times. You're going to come in here and give that speech 300 times, and everyone's going to, and one day we'll put it in an audience that pretends to do nothing but laugh at you. And another day we'll put in an audience that pretends to do nothing but sleep. And we'll keep simulating disasters and failures and problems and things that might face it, that might scare you. By the time you actually got up here to give the talk, you'd be like, big deal. I know everything there is to know about coniferous and deciduous trees, and I've seen every audience there is in the world, so bring it on. No big deal. I can do this. So you wouldn't be scared anymore because you studied and practiced and learned everything, and then, it's in the book, but you visualized failure. You visualized how it might go badly and practiced for that. You didn't just visualize an audience that would love every word that came out of your mouth. You visualized disaster. And one of the great ways to be successful is to visualize failure and figure out what you're going to do in the face of it and repeat it over and over again until you get comfortable with whatever happens. And then it's not scary anymore. And a lot of people are afraid of things because they just never get that far in their thinking. Any questions up on the balcony? Yes?
What's the most interesting problem you had to fix out in space?
What's the most interesting problem I had to face in space?
Fix.
Fix in space. Face, fix. They're kind of related. We were coming into dock with the space station Mir. On my first flight, we used Space Shuttle Atlantis and the Canadarm, the big Canadian robot arm, to build a big Russian section on the top of the shuttle and then drive the whole shuttle up and dock it with Mir, with the Russian space station, and then leave it there. And it's sort of like driving up in amongst all these pieces hanging out of the ceiling. There was big sections of Mir that hung down. But we had to dock really accurately. Our target was about as big around as a coffee cup. So you couldn't be left or right any different than that. We had to dock at exactly 1/10 of a foot per second, plus or minus 3/100ths of a foot per second. So if we were a little bit slower than that, we'd bounce off and then drift away and have to think about why we